We're only a few months away from the release of Grid 2 now, and guess what? The list is submitted, complete, and actually in the game. That doesn't mean our work is over yet, though. Our work never ends, or so I keep telling the guys. But before we wrap up the list in terms of tiles and names, we thought it'd be interesting to look at some of the ideas that never made it. The reasons for some are glaringly obvious from the outset, but we've got Codemasters on hand anyway to give us an in-depth reason as to why it never stood a chance. This, ladies and gents, was what was left on the cutting room floor. Prepare for controversy, laughs, and some pure unadulterated shame. We're going to run you through a list of some of the rejected achievements, and we'd like to know why? Why? Right, so the first one, it's Gosling fuel, as in Ryan Gosling, you know, the drive. Yeah. So you know when he's driving backwards and then changes to forwards? Yep. That was the achievement, to transition from reverse to forwards in one fell swoop.
Okay.
I think the issue with that one was exactly how we were going to track it. You know, we'd have to consider how much angle players would be allowed to kind of mess it up by. Would they be able to reverse kind of diagonally, then spin around with two handbrake turns and then kind of go off at a different angle? It was where the boundaries of those would fall down, and that was the problem with that.
The reason why that was cut?
Yeah.
Probably more to do with using the actor's name than anything else, I think. Is that right? Is this a quiz?
Kind of, yeah. It's a little bit like that. Actually, no, that's
not to do with that. No, because it's a really good name, though.
I know, right?
I don't think Ryan Gosling has trademarked his own name.
Well, might be wrong. Wouldn't surprise me. Right, I believe I can fly, and that was to get a significant amount of air.
There's nowhere in Grid that you can get a significant amount of air. Somehow I think there's one corner in one of the tracks that you can get a bit of a jump, but nothing like a dirt game where you're flying through.
Yeah, there's not really jumps in the game.
I believe he can fly, which is to push your opponent off a cliff in California.
I think that one was either due to encouraging violence or whether we do it online and it just became a griefing nightmare.
Encouraging violence?
Yeah.
They respawn?
They do, and it would highlight our damage model nicely, but yeah, I think production made the call. It was more about being fast than being furious.
The nature of the game and the rating that we're after doesn't really allow us to be as aggressive to other drivers as that. I mean, you can be, but we don't want to make it a rewardable goal for players.
Right, so rather than go for a drive so many miles achievement, well, to start with, we thought we'd take a different approach. It's a bit of a South Park. Do you watch South Park?
Yep.
So the achievement was called Turn to the Left Sometimes.
Okay.
That's in the NASCAR episode.
Yep.
And it was for take a left turn so many times, but that was rejected.
Right, I mean, again, you've got a slight issue there with what counts as a left turn. Is it anything slightly off of a straight is a left, or is it full lock? Would players be able to understand how they were going to count it and track it a bit themselves? Whereas with distance-based ones, we have other methods that players would be able to quantify how well they've done.
Probably because there's an Indianapolis track in there. No, that's probably not a good enough reason. Why not?
So basically, you weren't able to tell whether people just kind of fishtailing up and down.
Yeah, if you're just weaving around, I think we had to make a call. Would it count as a left turn or not? And yeah, it just became too much of a minefield.
I don't know why that was rejected.
Crash Bang Wallop, which was for destroying all the signs on a track and still winning the race.
Right. I can't remember exactly why this one went, but it might well have been to do with environment tagging, again, which we've had crop up in another area of the game where, yeah, tagging everything as a particular item rather than it just being part of the environment was either going to be time-consuming or a nightmare to define.
Oh, that's tough.
Would have been good.
That would have been really tough.
Would have been good.
Why didn't that go in? I don't know. I don't know as much about why they didn't go in as roster.
So that ties nicely into the next one, which was Tree Hugger, for getting terminal damage while hitting a tree.
Yeah, I mean, I believe we work on the premise of we can set materials on things, but yeah, I don't think we have them specifically tagged as trees in the environment. And then we also have a complication of, I think there's only one track where you drive amongst trees, so it might limit who'd be able to do it as well.
Are you even trying? Give them a 10-second head start by stopping still on the start line and then still winning the race.
Don't know what the reasoning behind that one was at all, I'm afraid. Although, yeah, it probably just wasn't very sympathetic to the title's goal.
Really? Stylish racing? Cocky racing?
There is that, but then there's... yeah, I mean, it's more about being part of the pack and working your way around your opponents rather than taking a run up at them from behind.
I don't know the answers to these questions.
Drunk baby. To cause a 10-car pileup.
Yeah, I mean, I think the connection between being drunk and driving was probably the first problem there.
But we could have changed the name, though, right? I mean, that...
Yeah, you could have done. Yeah, I mean, again, I'd imagine it's something that production have deemed not in the spirit of the title to be trying to manoeuvre pile-ups. Even
though in the first grid there was a 8-car pile-up achievement.
Difference between 8 and 10, that's where you're falling down.
Has the goal of the franchise changed? More mature now?
The goal of the franchise has shifted. I don't know if I could quantify it quite like that, though. But I mean, the premise we've gone with is all about being fast, being first, and being famous. And so, yeah, I'm not sure that one particularly falls in line with it.
Drunk baby, that was a 10-car pileup.
I think it might have been not in keeping with the game's style.
Okay, so this one, in Paris, right, there's this dark tunnel and there's a bollard in the middle just after the Arc de Triomphe. And we were going to call this one Princess Die.
With an E at the end.
Yeah, with an E at the end, yeah. If you hit the bollard.
I thought of that one myself.
Is there a reason why?
It's a really good one. I think it's just culturally insensitive. Too soon, maybe.
A little bit of everything, right?
In the Mercedes as well.
Offensive. Yeah, you couldn't have done that in the Mercedes, right? Because that goes back to the licensing thing.
If we wanted to sell the game on the basis of the Daily Mail headlines that we would get, we could definitely put it in, but I think we'd suffer on age ratings.
You should do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the news coverage of that story stopped me from watching Brazilian Ronaldo make his debut for Inter Milan on Soccer Italia. So that would have been heartbreaking to bring that up again.
That's the only reason, right?
Yeah, that was it. I personally rejected that one.
Awesome. Leaving it late, which is to set all your best sector times on a domination race type on the last lap.
That's probably because domination's not in the game anymore.
And that would be a good reason.
That was a race type that hasn't made it through into the final game. It was something that we'd worked with and really tried to do our best with and make it distinct from what we'd had in previous titles, but we didn't think that with the changes we were looking to make, we could get it up to the quality required for one of our titles in time. So it's a race type that's fallen by the wayside, and so unfortunately the achievement has to go as well.
We didn't have a name for it. It didn't actually get through to you, but we knew it would be rejected because we discussed it with you about ramping off a piece of debris off another car and getting air.
The difficulty in tracking that, for one, I mean, is it a piece of your bumper? Is it a piece of the opponent's bumper? You know, you've hit it on the way back round. It's not the best example of our handling model to have a bit of bumper stuck in your wheel for a long period of time, or to be potentially flying over a barrier or something like that. So, yeah, you probably saved us a little red cross next to that one by not submitting it.
There are also a bunch of achievements and trophies that we couldn't get into the game for a whole variety of other reasons, whether they were against the spirit of the game, like encouraging online griefing, licensing issues, like putting a car in a negative light, and ones that could be deemed slightly offensive, like that Princess Die one. We knew that a few of these wouldn't work or be acceptable from the outset. Heck, some of them made me cringe. But the purpose of this episode was to explore the constraints behind creating an achievement and trophy list. Turns out there's quite a lot of them. Join us next time on the Grid 2 Cheevo and Trophy Diaries as we put the finishing touches on the achievement and trophy list and prepare for the unveiling.